Welcome to Carolina's #1 sports podcast. This is Talking About Sports. We're here with a all-star packed panel with Reggie Walker, back-to-back weeks. What's the world coming to? The man who called the Virginia Cavaliers, Mountaineer Mike Fear, Military Hall of Famer William Wilson. I'm Kevin Casey, as always. Kevin Tolbert here as always. And Reggie, Masters Week, what's going on with there?
Yeah, man, it's Masters Weekend. Always a good time. It lets you know spring is here, but it's also when golf really gets going, kicking into high gear. Tiger Woods even through 6 so far, so be interesting to see how Tiger looks by the end of the tournament.
He's been working on the night putting, we understand. But big news down at the Spectrum Center, if you will. Last night, the Charlotte Hornets, I was proven correct, saying they would not get in. William Wilson, you did say they'd sneak in. They tried to sneak in, but even without Blake Griffin, Detroit found a way to win over the hapless Mountaineer Mike's hapless New York Knicks. So, Mike, you follow the Hornets more than anybody here, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for you, maybe. But Kemba Walker is a free agent now, I guess, at the end of the league year. The Hornets are in the lottery. What do you make of this season and last night?
Kemba!
That might be the last time you hear that from the announcer there for a while. I think we saw Kemba Walker play his last game as a Hornet. I honestly don't see how the Hornets can keep him, no matter how much they want to keep him. And I don't know if it does the franchise Williams talked about for a while this season. I really don't know how the franchise can do it and keep some of the players they have there now. The whole franchise.
Who's worth keeping they got now?
He's worth keeping. It's worth paying them. It's worth all
Bridges, Lamb, those guys are legit.
Lamb won't be back.
Who's the guy at Squirrel Hunts? Malik Monk? That guy. Keep him.
He's on a rookie deal.
He's on a rookie deal.
The problem is, here's the problem. Their salary cap next season is $109 million projected. The Hornets already, without Kemba and Jeremy Lamb, who are off the books after this year, they're already committed for $95 million.
Oh.
And that includes Nick Batum getting almost 26. That is where the problem with the Hornets franchise is right there. Nick Batum's contract.
Well, not only is it Nick Batum, though, and you guys have heard me ad nauseum talk about that contract in particular. The biggest issue with this is an organization. This is a city. Like most of the teams in the NBA, you can only really afford to pay one guy, and they're paying Batum. Here's the reality, and I'll say it like this. Does Kemba deserve a max deal? Yeah. That's the problem. Everybody that comes off the books wants a max deal. That's what Batum got. That's what Jeremy Lamb is going to ask for, whatever the max is for him. And you totally understand it. But the problem is this team cannot pay all those guys. They're going to offer Kemba the max, and it's going to be up to him to stay here and take it or go somewhere else and get not as much, but still a large boatload of money.
Well Mountaineer Mike,
a chance to win.
And a chance to win. And the reality is, even Kemba knows. All the great free agents know a chance to win with a max contract means a major market team that can spend the money. It does not mean New Orleans. It does not generally mean a place like Utah, a Denver. Those places, you can forget it.
Denver's a big city.
When Donovan Mitchell's up, he's probably going to leave Salt Lake City because they can't pay him and Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors. They can't do it. It's just not feasible for a lot of organizations.
You want to pay the luxury tax.
And a lot of these organizations don't have it.
Does not want to pay the luxury tax, which is fine.
Where's he going to get the money?
It's his money. He does what he wants with it. It's going to be really tough. Even if it could get really worse if he makes the All-NBA team. One of the All-NBA teams.
That was I was going to point out.
Yeah.
He could get a supermax if he makes one of the All-NBA teams.
And you can really say goodbye to his chances.
That's exactly right.
Or anywhere. I mean, anywhere, because he's not going to get a supermax anywhere.
And speaking of the Batum thing, I'm going to just throw this at you because you follow the numbers better than me. And Will, I want to get your opinion on this too. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Lamb has played really well this year.
Great guy.
What kind of
Good
money
family.
is he staring at right now? Somebody's going to have to pay him $12 to $15 million a year. I don't think he's worth it.
He's making $7 million this year.
I think he's worth at least 10, maybe 12.
He's going to double his salary.
Is that a guy, Will, you think is worth $14, $15 million a year?
I'm with Kevin. I go 10, 12. I don't think he's 14 because that's that kind of money you start getting. You start looking at, to me, that's superstar money.
Right.
And he's not a superstar.
He hits long shots.
And that's the problem with the Hornets, too, is he's a number 2 scorer, and you're not going to be a playoff contender with Jeremy Lamb
as your number 2. He's got to be a number 4 or 5 on a playoff team.
Right, but I watched this. I went to the Toronto game. And I watched when Kemba was on the bench.
He owns Toronto.
No, Kemba. When Kemba was, the Hornets played better and were more consistent when Kemba was on the bench. I'm not saying that's a whole season thing, but I'm telling you what I watched against Toronto, a really good team. And I watched when Kemba came back on the field, on the court. When they came back on the court, they really looked like it's like, okay, how do we figure how to work everything through Kemba? The scoring was more even. They played more confident. More guys took shots. They weren't depending on one person. When Kemba came in, it's almost like he came in and threw the whole chemistry off. Because they were kind of like, they go up 2 or 3, be down 5. Go up 2 or 3, be down 5. And then when Kemba was on the bench, they came up, they got ahead, they started running up some score, and they played consistently. So I've said this all season, and this is nothing against Kemba as a player. I think it's a matter of utilization. I don't think they don't force Kemba to have to trust his teammates. They let him do what he wants to on the court, so he never trusts his teammates. So his teammates
Who's there
never
to
have
trust,
confidence.
though?
But you know what, Kevin? But we can't keep using that as a cop-out when we never see them play together.
He doesn't have like LaMarcus Aldridge over there he can kick it out to and hit threes.
But here's the thing to it. You don't always have to have a superstar name you can drop. What I saw was they played their best basketball when Kemba was on the bench as a team. They didn't go behind. Matter of fact, they didn't go back behind until Kemba came back on the court. So what I'm saying is sometimes you may have some diamonds in the rough and some jewels that you just don't know because you keep them in the closet because you're trying to placate one particular person. Now, again, this has nothing to do with Kemba, him being a good player, bad player. I don't think you're going to get Supermax anywhere because the Hornets aren't going to give it to him. No one else is going to give it to him.
I agree.
Because you tie up too much of your money. It's bad business.
I agree.
Kemba doesn't bring you Supermax production because, like you said, if he wants to go where he can win, and he's that final piece, they don't need to pay him Supermax money.
There are options for him to go somewhere and be
Boston,
on a
New York,
competitive
maybe.
team.
I think he's a better option than Kyrie Irving. That's just me.
What's that?
I think he's a better option than Kyrie Irving.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Here's the thing. I think the reality of what we're going to find out with Kemba in particular is how much he wants to win versus how much he, quote, loves Charlotte and or wants to be paid the most money.
Well, I think
that's what's going to be interesting.
He can still
to
go somewhere else and still love Charlotte. I don't think there's any question. He likes being here. He likes.
I agree.
Here. He likes
He's building a house
city.
here.
I don't think one has anything to do with the other. He's going to have to make a decision. He's going to be in his mid-30s by the time whatever contract he signs is out. And how much is he going to? What is he going to have to show for it from a competitive standpoint?
The reason I say love Charlotte is because most of those guys will say it's not about the money.
It's always about
as to why they go.
Somebody says
it's
not about the money.
It's always. I agree with William. It always is. But I'm just going based on what they say.
I think it's always. You know what? Let me say that with an asterisk. It's always about the money, until ego really gets involved. Because at the end of the day, you really want to be one. If it's about the money, you want to be the highest paid guy, and only so many people are going to be that. And some guys really, really, really want a ring. Now, if you really, really want to win, you'll take less money. But then, what teams that really, in all honesty, you have a Golden State, maybe 2 or 3 other teams that really have a consistent chance of really winning.
Yeah.
And Golden State's not going to give Kemba that much money. They don't have to.
Well, they got their own issues to deal with after this season.
They got to deal with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson and
Which
Boogie
could open
Cousins.
the door for other teams like a Dallas if they get a Kemba Walker with that lineup to maybe really make a
I hope he doesn't
run.
go to Dallas.
Man, Dallas
I hate
got
the
87 point guards. They better not touch Kemba Walker.
I don't like the Dallas Mavericks anyway, so I really don't like Dallas. Even though.
But you can not like them all you want. They're in a really good position to
they are
to be competitive.
And you know what? A lot of people want to play with Porzingis.
He would be.
And Doncic.
I think the draft's going to have a lot to do with this to see where pieces kind of fall together. Because we're playing the super speculation game at this point. It's not just speculation; it's super speculation. But 1 or 2 moves and one team starts the whole domino effect throughout the entire league. The whole league can look entirely different next year, and the Hornets can work their way up. But they have to do something.
I will say this: if they can figure out a way, I don't know how, because I'm sure they've been trying for 2 years. If they can figure out a way for another team, i.e. a sucker, to take Nick Batum's contract off their hands, that would really change the complexion of the franchise as far as how they pursue Kemba Walker.
How much longer is left on Batum's deal? One more year, right?
Next year and a player option for the year after that, which
he's going to take that.
He's going to take it.
Yeah, he's going to take the player option. So he's 2 years. Sometimes I think to myself, when I look at it, what's up, Fast Eddie? Fast Eddie's tuning in, checking us out. Sometimes you got to pay the cost to be the boss. And I think if Mike really wants to win, start doing something, say, you know what? I'm going to come off some of this money. I'll take the luxury tax hit. If I got to take it for 2 years, I'll take it because that may pay off. I don't look at it as paying a tax. I look at it as investing in your future down the road.
Now I agree with that. If you're going to go over the luxury tax, you better have a team that can really compete. And this team has proven they're 3 years without the playoffs now. You know, they can re-sign Kemba, but until Nick Batum gets off the books, until Cody Zeller gets off the books,
Marvin Williams,
I mean, they're going to be in the same spot they were, and Kemba knows that.
Yeah, I think Kemba. For Kemba to really stay, I'm trying to figure myself. I'm trying to put myself. If I'm Kemba, what makes me leave? Because I know. If it's not a max deal, how long many years max deal gonna be? What, 5 years maybe?
His
years,
current team's 5.
90 mil.
Okay, so 5 years. So you're looking at 5 years as a max deal. If I'm willing to suck up and take the hit for 2 years, so the last 3 years I'm competitive, am I willing to give up that much money? What can Mike show me? Show me the plan for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
That says, hey, Kemba, if you stay here for 5 years, these next 2 years gonna be rough. But we'll get these guys off the books. I promise you we'll bring in 2 or 3 guys that can play with you that will make your swan song worth it.
That's a conversation. I totally agree with that.
I think that's a great conversation. Here's the problem. It's unrealistic and if you think it isn't, look at the Los Angeles Lakers and what they thought they were going to do last year in free agency. They did get LeBron, but they thought they would get 2 guys. They were thinking, even after not getting 2, they would get somebody this offseason. Didn't look like it. Remember, Paul George was said to be headed to all these things. That's L.A. That's the lure of the Lakers, and it didn't work. With all due respect to this city, the tradition of the Hornets versus the tradition of the Lakers and guys wanting to play for that organization is very different. So for Jordan, I'm with you. That's the conversation piece. But how many people can try to get in Kemba's ear with the reality that happened with the Lakers and poke holes in that conversation?
But here's the problem. I hear what you're saying, but there's two factors I think about we don't talk about. We keep talking about the Lakers because we're old.
Right.
We're old. We care about the legacy and the history. These new cats don't care about the legacy and the history. Remember, everybody thought everybody in the world wanted to come play for Michael Jordan because he's Michael Jordan. Nobody really wants to come play for Michael Jordan. They just don't want to because they don't want to be overshadowed by anybody else. And so you offset that. And then LeBron. Not as many people want to play with LeBron as you think they do.
That's my point.
So there's a couple reasons the Lakers couldn't get people. Nobody, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't want to play with Kemba. Like, I don't want to play with Kemba. There are guys who don't want to play with LeBron. So I think there are guys, the Lakers probably could have got 2 of those guys they wanted to go after if LeBron wasn't there. So I think there's 2 factors involved that kept them from the Lakers. So the Lakers are still living in the past and thinking that they think they're a supermodel because they were a supermodel back in the 80s. They think they're still sexy.
I agree.
They realize it's 2019 and they old now.
And look, you've heard me say for years.
You're friends with Kathy Ireland, though.
I don't blame it on LeBron. But everything that comes with LeBron being in an organization, everybody is not cut out to deal with that. They're just not.
How many
and
coaches,
I think that's why a lot of guys don't want to go.
How many coaches, GMs, and team presidents have lost their jobs being associated with LeBron James?
Well, here's the thing. If I'm Luke Walton,
he's next.
People are going, oh, it's great. You get to coach LeBron.
No, he's not,
but
not for long.
On the flip side, you look at the rest of the roster and you go, we can't win with this, but people expect it because LeBron is there. That's not a fun place to be. That's not a job I'd want.
I agree with what you're saying. I think LeBron does come with extra baggage.
It's not his fault. I'm not blaming him at all.
And he's a top player, and he understands that, and he wants to do things.
And the media scrutiny of when the guy goes to the bathroom is out of control.
I totally agree with that. I would say don't totally throw the Lakers' season in the toilet because of LeBron.
No. Their season was in the toilet with the roster they constructed. That was not a
yes and no
contending basketball
team. It was a poorly constructed roster, but when they were mid-season and in 4th place in the conference, everybody thought it was great because all the young guys were healthy.
I didn't think it was sustainable.
Brandon Ingram got hurt. Lonzo Ball got hurt.
Brandon
23 games together. Lonzo, LeBron, Brandon Ingram. 15-8.
I'm trying to figure out when those 2 guys.
I'm saying, dude.
Every team has Lonzo Ball. Every team has one of those.
When are Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram going to find a weight room? That's what I want to know.
Just breaking.
They look like guys that went to the University of North Carolina. They don't find a weight room in 10 years. I don't understand why these dudes are so skinny. They don't understand they're playing 82 NBA games. Get your body right. Get your behind in the weight room.
It's the Kevin Durant model. Kevin Durant looks
I'm hearing that the Mountaineer Mike, that the Sacramento Kings, Vlade Divac, their GM, former Hornet, is going to fire Coach Dave Jorger. Is that his name, Jorger?
Yes.
I'm hearing that.
I'm hearing that's possible. I can't imagine why, but
I'm hearing
fine.
that's a very distinct possibility, like closer to at least 60%.
I don't know why you'd want to mess with that right now. They're
I don't
on the
either.
upswing.
Sacramento.
I think that's a good young ball club right now. How about Steve Clifford coming in and knocking the Hornets out last night? I guess he can't coach anymore, right?
It's crazy.
Poetic justice. But it was time. I like Steve Clifford, but it was time. It was time for him to go. You know, because he's been here long enough, and
I've heard that before. Time to go.
Yeah, they weren't
The
necessarily
voice
getting
gets old
better.
after a while. We talked about it. I think Steve Clifford, I'm very happy to see him turn the Magic, or be one of the reasons the Magic turned around. We always like Steve Clifford. You can't really say anything bad about Steve Clifford.
Yeah.
It's just the voice gets old after a while, and you risk danger of really losing the team.
Can anybody, other than you, Mountaineer Mike, can anybody name anybody who plays for the Orlando Magic?
Well, after watching that game last night, I know who Terrence Ross is.
I know who Aaron Gordon is.
Here's the thing.
Evan Fournier, is he still there?
Oh, yeah.
Cadillac Anderson, Penny Hardaway.
Look, even the best chef in the world can't cook with rotten food. So at the end of the day, we can blame all the coaches we want to. Right now, every coach here has rotten food, which is these contracts.
The NBA's a players' league.
They thought when they brought Larry Johnson in, not Larry Johnson, Larry Brown in, they finally cleared out, and they got rid of Gerald Wallace and all these guys.
Gerald Wallace, good player.
Yeah, he's a great player. The fans loved him. But I like what they were doing. They said, no, we're going to get rid of all this stuff, get all these old contracts out of the way, and start fresh. We'll take this heat and start fresh. Then they took the heat, but the one common denominator they still have is Michael Jordan. So you can't cause a mess, clean house, and then cause the exact same mess with the same thing that you did before. The Marvin Williams shouldn't have got the money he got when they brought him in here, and everybody knew it.
That was Rich Cho.
Exactly.
But
Mike still signed off on it.
But here's
The
the deal.
buck stops with the guy who writes the checks.
You're going to see a
Rich
totally
Cho-
different team next year.
Rich Cho wrote recommendations. Michael Jordan writes checks, and he made decisions.
We'll hopefully end this Hornets discussion, put them out of their misery. But I'll just say, I want Jeremy Lamb re-signed. His dad went to college with me, so I'm a Rolando Lamb. So I'm hoping Jeremy Lamb stays with the Hornets. He's earned his money. Pay the man. It's like Ted DiBiase say, Virgil, pay the man.
They've all
We're here at the
earned the
Dilworth
money.
Neighborhood Grill.
Kevin's
This is
earned the
talking about
money.
sports.
At Heslop Wealth Advisors, our goal is to help small businesses develop quality retirement plans for their employees through our Lunch and Learn seminars. We provide lunch and learning tools to help your company succeed and unmatched customer service.
All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports, the Carolina's #1 sports podcast. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with an all-star panel: Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer, William Wilson, and guys, that's enough of the Hornets. I've had enough of them for a year at least, or at least till next December. College basketball. Props to Mountaineer Mike Freer for picking the Virginia Cavaliers. I did have Texas Tech in the Final Four, at least for that. So Reggie and Mike were talking about the deliberate style, the slower pace, more defensive-oriented. But Mountaineer Mike, props to you for picking the my home state, Virginia Cavaliers.
From the outhouse to the penthouse, they went 1 year. That's a pretty remarkable turnaround for a team that, a lot of heat. There was nobody that was more ridiculed in the offseason in college basketball than the Virginia Cavaliers after what went down. And, Reggie and I were just talking before we went on. Think about what what happened to that team since the end of last year. They lost right here in Charlotte as a 1 seed to a 16 seed.
First
First time ever. Answered all the questions. Tony Bennett stood up there, answered all the questions, no excuses, gave the props to UMBC. They go to media day for the ACC. It's right back here in Charlotte. And now you have to answer all those questions again, but with added questions like, oh, you're in the same building, blah, blah, blah. Then they have the ACC tournament right here in Charlotte. Now you got to answer more questions about Charlotte, whatever.
And they didn't make the final in that one either. So
and
there's
they didn't make
that.
the final. And
Does anybody know how many times has the ACC champion won the national title? Because I've seen years that Duke's lost in the ACC tournament, North Carolina's lost in the ACC tournament, and they've won the national title. So the Virginia loses in the ACC tournament, and they're the national champions.
I think the point that's lost in this is actually one that, Will, you made indirectly last segment. And it's about staying and developing. All of these guys at Virginia, Kyle Guy, Ty Jerome, Hunter, Diakate, all these guys were there last year and felt the sting of the loss. And they didn't run from it. Not that I'm suggesting other guys did. They didn't run from it. They came back, faced it head on this season, and won a national championship because of it.
Yeah.
Not only had they developed a desire to want to redeem themselves, but they were a year older, a year wiser, and a year better in terms of their overall development of their game. And I think that's an important point
I agree.
to hit, Will. And to your credit, you indirectly said it, so I want to make sure we're aware that happened.
Yeah, and I've been saying this for a while, talking about that. You guys have to mature. We talking about the young player. The young player in the NBA now is different than the young player when Jordan was there. Because the young player in the NBA had, at least 3 years of Division I, or usually Division I team dynamic. They developed, they matured, they've been out of high school. They learned to deal with some of the superstardom, so those things work. And I remember Chris Candy, Virginia alum, Super Bowl champion Chris Candy, right here in Charlotte, said, I think I put that in there before Kevin had a chance to drop it in there.
Of course.
But when he came out with his Final Four, and Virginia was in his Final Four, he's picked him to win a championship. And I texted him, I said, is that heart or is that brain? He said, that's heart. He said, but that's what Virginia needs. He said, that's what those guys had. Those guys play with heart. The reason those guys play with heart, because just like Reggie said, they felt the sting. Zion Williamson doesn't give a damn what happened to Duke this year, because Zion Williamson is going to be multi-rich in about another couple of weeks.
Somebody said his mom had a consulting deal with Duke.
Of course they do, man. These guys that it's just like when Arkansas had to play Ohio State, and I can't remember the kids now. Those 5 guys that shouldn't have been eligible, they said, well, we'll let you play in the Sugar Bowl if you come back next year. They said, okay. They played, and then
they didn't come back. Right.
Because there's no ramifications. Zion Williamson and guys like this, nothing against them, they go to college just because they have to. Zion Williamson would have been a Rookie of the Year this year probably had he didn't have to go to Duke for a year. So that's the only reason he's even in college.
That's exactly right.
Know who he is.
And by the way, that's an NBA rule, not a college rule.
Right, NBA rule.
So people know that.
Yeah. So until the NBA does something about that, and that is predicated. I said all this to tie this up in a bow of this. The reason we keep talking about these teams in the NBA they can't play, because always they're a young team and coaches getting fired all the time because they don't develop by the time they get there. So you got a bunch of basically wet behind the ears high school graduates that played a year in basically AAU, advanced AAU, and then they move to the NBA.
Yeah.
Now these coaches that are used to playing with guys who have developed, mature players that are playing on a level that aren't there now. That's why the NBA is in a bad mess. And that's why these contracts are always going to be bad. You're paying bad players, hope they develop, instead of develop players for playing what they're doing. You're drafting and giving contracts on potential, not on position.
Yeah, and look at the 4 teams that were in the Final Four. Texas Tech, plenty of upperclassmen. Auburn, upperclassmen. Virginia, we talked about. Michigan State, upperclassmen. That's why they end up there. They understand how to play. They understand the expectations of each other. And I think that's an important point to make. And again, I'm going to say this all the time. I'm not questioning whether or not guys should be able to go get their money. People's money is their business. All I'm saying is stop trying to yell at Mark Emmert for, quote, trying to exploit college athletes. It ain't Mark Emmert's rule. The rules making these kids not turn pro out of high school are not NCAA rules. The 3-year rule for football is an NFL rule. The 1-year rule for basketball is an NBA rule. Those are not NCAA
Right,
rules.
I don't think they're getting on Emmerich for that.
That's what he gets blamed for all the time. These kids should be in the NBA
all the time. I think it's everything else that goes.
What about? All right, now we mentioned that we gave you props for Virginia picking Virginia Mike, and we talked about Zion. What about next year for Duke and North Carolina? I mean, Trey Jones is coming back for Duke. The guy from Cox Mill. What's his name? KT.
Wendell Moore. Wendell
Moore's coming. He's going to be he and Trey
He's
Jones.
a real deal, by the way.
Leaky Black, my man from Concord, is going to lead the Tar Heels with whoever they got coming in. I think Duke and North Carolina are going to be fine next year. And Danny Manning better win next year. New AD, you're on a 1-year contract.
Look, Duke and Carolina will be in the top 10 based on recruiting once again, and we'll see how they finish the year.
Well, there's a guy named Cole Anthony, who is the number two, from Oak Hill, who's the number 2 ranked player overall, is undecided, and North Carolina is one of his final choices. If he ends up going to North Carolina, they'll
start the season in the top 5.
A game changer for them.
Right.
They'll start the season in the top 5, but will they finish there?
Right, but
that's the whole key.
At the end of the day, Duke and Carolina, the name, we can just say player X. We can play player 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because their names could not be less relevant if they tried to be. They're going to Duke, Carolina, Kentucky, those blue blood programs are going to always have top-tier guys. They're going to always be in the conversation.
Yep.
They're always going to be in the preseason conversation. So it's really shout out to Herman Toe for logging on. But they're going to always be there.
Yeah.
So we sit there and go.
It comes to getting to the Final
Yes,
Four.
we take all this time to get to know this guy and this guy from Achimama Boo Boo High School. He's a 5-star, blah, 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 McDonald's, whatever. And and at the end of the day, who really cares? These guys they're a bunch of 1A, 1B, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1A. They're all the same basic players. Some are a little better than others, but they're basically the same. They're going to always be good. They're going to always be there, and I think that's their problem. Guys walk in, they're going to Duke, Carolina, and Kentucky, so they go to NBA. They're a rest area. They're driving from here to Miami, and they just stop at an NBA. They stop by Duke, Carolina, and these places as a rest stop to get a nap, refresh, and then get some new film so they get drafted higher. That's the only reason these guys are going.
Well, I agree with what you said. I'm going to change it up a little bit. It's like they're truck drivers, and those are way stations.
Yep,
because you have to stop.
Yeah,
it's mandatory. That's all it is. They're just making the mandatory stop on the way to where they're going.
Yep, they got to sleep. You wide awake, but you got to sleep. You got to be around.
You got to shut down the truck for 10 hours.
You have to, whether you want to or not.
Electronic log says you have to.
Exactly, and that's all this is doing. All they're doing is showing down production, and they're slowing down products, getting to the businesses.
Well, I don't know. What about Danny Manning? I think he's okay. They've been okay. They've had some wins, some losses, but you're in a conference with Duke, North Carolina. It's a tough league, but you got to win. They got a new AD in there.
I'm gonna ask you this flat out. Let's look at this realistically. Okay, let's look at the ACC as a basketball conference.
It is.
If you're Wake Forest, as an administration, what is the realistic expectation every year? Because you're not going to consistently compete or be above Duke. You're not going to consistently compete with and be above North Carolina.
Nope.
Same thing with Virginia. Nope. Same thing with Syracuse.
I don't know about that. Are you playing for 4th or 5th?
Probably NC State. Yes.
You playing for 5th place.
And Louisville. They're down right now, but historically, whether it's Rick Pitino or all the way back to Denny Crum,
they throw
in the old
parties,
Metro
though.
Conference. Hold on a second, Kev.
All right.
I got this. Whether it's Denny Crum all the way back to the Metro, Louisville's always been a good basketball program. Syracuse, Boeheim, all the way back to when he played. Syracuse has always been good. I just named 6 programs that Wake Forest will not be consistently better than.
I think.
Are you going to sit here and tell me they should be any higher than that?
I'm just telling you, Danny Manning is the last year of his contract. And by the way, Louisville, Denny Crum, Metro Conference. I'm thinking Dr. D, Daryl Griffin, Dr. Duncanstein. But
Never Nervous Purvis. If you want to go history, know your history.
But that got nothing to do with next year, though.
I'm saying for Danny Manning, I think they have to win, maybe at least be 500 in the ACC and win 20 games.
I think they gave him an extra year because they brought in a good recruiting class this past season. And to let him go after bringing those kids in without giving them a chance to get a second year or sophomore year with him is probably why he's still around. But they haven't been the same, and Reggie knows this, since they let Dino Gaudio go.
That's true.
Good recruiting got Dino Gaudio fired.
Got him to
Love my
number
man
one
Dino.
in the country.
Got him to number 1 in the country and got him fired because all those really good recruits,
And there's
back
a
to
lot of
Williams'
kids,
point,
there's a lot of guys
jumped
in
to the NBA.
from Wake Forest.
Yep.
With Dino Gaudio recruited.
That's exactly right,
Some of
including
these guys
Chris Paul.
and
they've
had
been
some
trying to play catch up.
baggage, if you will, that Dino brought in, but they won. and they went pro.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. That's the thing.
Baggage.
You can't build a legacy.
What are you
on
talking
a
about,
one-night
baggage?
stand. You can't build a family on a one-night stand.
Ooh.
And that's what they keep trying to do. These are a bunch of Zion Williamson was a one-night stand. It just is what it is. Kyrie Irving, one-night stand.
Some of those are memorable, though.
This you may remember it because they're history. You're not building memories, new memories with them. You remember what you did. You remember how good you felt. You woke up in the morning, but the next morning you wake up, you're in bed alone. But that's just what ends up happening.
I don't know, man. I had some good days back in the old days.
Shut up. Just stop talking.
By the way, folks, they're friends.
Yeah. Oh, that's my boy. This is what we do.
That was my single days before I was married.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. After you get married, you just stop having sex.
No, I know. Tell me about it.
All I'm saying
Didn't get thrown out.
What I'm saying is you can't build a family on a one-night stand. You can have kids all over the place. You can make a statement. I watched Stephen Jackson make a statement the other day when they're
Sean
talking
Kemp.
about. Anyway, Stephen Jackson, he said, I got 5 kids. I ain't with none of their baby mamas. I make sure when I'm on my days off, I spend time with some of them.
Right.
That means they all got part-time fathers who has a full-time job because they all get a piece of him, not the whole thing. When you bring these one-and-done guys in, what you've got is a guy who's going to come in, he's going to give you a splash in the pan, he's going to get you on ESPN, then he's going to still be on ESPN with a pro jersey, and you're going to be rebuilding every year. So like like Reggie said, until the NBA does something, we're going to have this same silly conversation. The name will change, but the game will stay the same.
Yeah.
This was going to always happen.
What would you do if you were the NBA then?
The NBA,
Let 'em come.
The NBA, you
Let
tell
'em
them
come.
You tell them just come right out or stay 3 years. You treat them like baseball. Come right out of high school or you stay 3 years.
I don't have a problem with that. I never thought this rule should be in place to begin with.
Yeah.
It was only in place because NBA did not want GMs going to high school gyms.
Right, because
That's
all
it. That's
of
the
a
only
sudden all the NBA GMs are 6'8" and 6'10", and they don't like being noticed in a high school gym.
Right. They don't want to do that. They don't want to have to travel to Cox Mill High School to watch some kid play.
And they're tired of being wrong. That's
Hey,
the other piece of it.
hold on.
They've been
We got-
wrong too many times.
We got a legend in the house. The one and only, the Chocolate Rocket himself, Mr. NBC, the Olympics, Indy 500. If it's a big sporting event, Herman Toe, the Chocolate Rocket, is there. What's up, Herm? Man, I can't go.
What's up, Herm? Good to see you.
Come over here and grab something.
Yeah,
Interview
give him a mic.
him. We'll take your mic and interview your man.
My
How's
man.
everybody?
What's up, man?
What's going on?
Now, a lot of people don't. Me and Herman go way back, but we're a couple of brothers that connected through NASCAR.
Yes.
Believe it or not, how's that for a weird connection? But that's how we connected. That's why we call it the Chocolate Rocket. What's going on, my brother?
Not a whole lot. Saw you guys online. Had to drop by. Actually, my wife is having an interview downtown for Winthrop scholarship. So so I spent some time. I saw you guys online, so I had to come by and see you guys live in person.
See, you know you big time when Herman Toe come through.
Anytime,
'Cause
I know, man. Anybody's
you
welcome
follow
to come
Herman
down.
Instagram. He's at the Olympics, and then if it's the big sporting event, Herman is there in the building. That's just how he rolls.
Try to be there.
What's been up, man? What's the next big venture coming up? What's the next big deal?
Actually, at the end of this month, I have the NBA NFL draft in Nashville, so we'll be there covering for all of our NBC affiliates across the globe.
I'll be there next week.
Oh, very nice.
Nashville next week.
All right. So
the NBA draft in coming up. So
June.
if I can hitchhike to Nashville to go to the draft, can I crash in your room?
it's right there. I got enough room. Got enough room for it. Got a couch.
Ah!
I keep the king size bed. You got a couch.
Okay.
Hey,
There you go. Know your role.
I got a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo uptown, and I still sleep on my couch every night. That'd be just like being at home.
I hear you. I hear you.
So
I just want to say hello to you, fellas. I love
Thank
the
you
work.
very much.
Love what you do.
Thank you very much, and glad you're here. And
the legendary Chocolate Rocket.
Thank you
If y'all
very
don't know, now you know.
Get it, family, my
all right, and how do you top that? I mean, you never know. I mean, it could be Muhsin Muhammad, it could be Herman here. I mean, it could be anybody just strolling through. It's just the way it is. When we're here, legends stop by. We're going to take a break. We're coming back with more Talking About Sports right after this.
I think somebody just got surprised by that one. How's the T-Grade doing?
At Heslop Wealth Advisors, our goal is to help small businesses develop quality retirement plans for their employees through our Lunch and Learn seminars. We provide lunch and learning tools to help your company succeed and unmatched customer service.
All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with William Wilson, Mountaineer Mike Freer, and Reggie Walker. And Reggie, you had something was burning on your mind. You noticed that standing room only crowd at Bristol Motor Speedway last week for the Cup race, which, by the way, I did call Kyle Busch as the winner. You picked Kurt, so you came in second, so that's good. So,
all 12 people there saw it.
No, you didn't have a ticket to get in, Reg? Is that what you're saying?
No, I was traveling, doing some other things at that particular juncture. No, it's interesting to see that because Bristol's never looked that way.
I've never seen it
at least
like
in
that.
my memory. I know, Will, you have more of a connection to it, even obviously than I do. But my question is, and the wonder is, there are two really big races in Charlotte next month. Are the images of Bristol a sign of things? I don't think Charlotte will ever be look like Bristol did, but is it a sign to come in terms of declining attendance? And is that problem becoming a bigger problem?
It's definitely a big problem. You know, they took down the whole backstretch grandstands in Charlotte. Then they took down half the grandstands out of between turns 3 and 4. They've been just taking more and more seats out just so it doesn't look so empty to keep everybody in one spot. I don't know if they've taken the grandstands down from Bristol or not yet, but I remember when they put all those grandstands up because they couldn't pack it.
Yep.
The night race at Bristol used to be a harder ticket to get than the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's how hard it was. I have never, and I've seen the snow race at Bristol.
Yep.
I've seen really rain races at Bristol where, because at first I was like, maybe it just rained earlier. But I checked, it hadn't rained at Bristol like 6, 7, 8 hours.
Hell, we saw a football game at that speedway.
Yeah, there just aren't people there.
Is it the drivers? Is it the quality of racing?
Kevin is saying NASCAR won't last a decade.
I disagree.
It's not following it. Every business, as a business owner, my first priority is to make money today. My second priority is to see where the business is going next week.
That's right.
NASCAR got comfortable, they got picky, and they depend on guys like you, Kev. You're a traditionalist. You want the races to stay long. You love it. I was on pit road for 6 years. I got 3 championships. I can hardly watch some of these races now. There's no suspense. They make guys just move out of the way if you're a lap down. The races, they're just too long. Millennials aren't going to watch it. And so 70-year-old men and 50-year-old men and women and 45-year-old men and women, they got other things to do. They're not going to watch it. If NASCAR doesn't make some changes. I love what they're doing with the track changes, the schedule next year. I like the stage races, but if they don't shorten these races, and what I really like to see them do, everybody go to a NASCAR, and I'm not sure how they would implement this, everybody be on the same level with the cars.
Yeah.
Your engine comes from NASCAR.
Yeah.
Out of the crate.
Come out of the crate, everyone has a crate motor. Huh? Yeah, do it like ARCA. That way you put all the onus on the driver and the crew chief and the crew. Because right now, you end up with all your teams now, like, that you got your Power 4, and they provide the engines for everybody else.
But you think they're going to do a great engine for somebody else they competing with? Not as good as their own?
The only one that did Joe Gibbs did that with Martin Truex Jr., and then he ran the price up so high, it ran Marty Fisher out of NASCAR.
There you go.
Joe Gibbs owns Martin
Truex car.
So that's what ends up happening. So until you put these guys on an even playing field, because there's some really, really good drivers out there.
Absolutely.
Some of you guys that don't know, Kenny Wallace was always a mid-pack guy.
He's funny, though.
He went to DEI when Steve Park got hurt and drove the Pennzoil #1 car. He was top 5 every week. These drivers, there's not much separation in the talent of the driver. A guy like Chase Elliott, those guys come in, they look like they're superstars because they walk into the super team.
They got good equipment.
They walk into everything cup level from the day they walk in.
They got fast cars and good crew. They
do, and they got money out the wazoo on top of it. So until they turn around and make these things more competitive, well, you got to wonder. You can only say Darryl McReynolds and Junior and all these guys can only say so much to try to make something seem like it can be suspenseful when there's 3 laps to go and the leader's 2 seconds ahead. There's no suspense there.
No, before we get any further, let's acknowledge our fans and our friends here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill, the Reggie Walker William Wilson Wings. We got looks like some chicken fingers, fries, the Bucky Badger beer cheese. James King. By the way, congratulations to James moving on to greener pastures, and we thank you for your for all you've done for us here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Carolina Panthers, Reggie Walker, you're going to Nashville. I think it's good that the
yeah, I'm going to Nashville, not for the draft, but I am going to Nashville next week.
That's close to your home in Memphis, where you grew up, right?
That's right.
So, but the Panthers, I think pass rusher, offensive line are some areas that they need to look into in the first couple of days.
Yeah, I think the first day with that 16th pick, I think unless they fall in love with an offensive lineman that they
Hopefully
really like. They got to go D-line, but one way or the other, you're going to see a guy in the trenches for this organization. If it were me, especially now that they picked up, I think it was Bruce Irvin to come off the edge for him, I would be looking for a guy that I can trust in the offensive line to protect the blind side of the $100 million quarterback. Like him or not, you've given that quarterback $100 million. You have to protect your investment.
Only a couple years left on that
injuries.
Contract.
All of those things. So you got to keep an eye on that. I think that's number one. They got to go trenches. I think really until they get to Saturday, because again, Thursday's the first round, Friday's second and third round. I think until they get to Saturday, they need to be looking at interior line play, offense and defense.
But hey, there's a really good center that's coming out of North Carolina State. He had to be a William Wilson client too, but you know.
Okay, well that's good.
Gary Bradbury, you know.
Yeah, he'll look good on draft. No, he is a good player. I don't know if as far as I know, I don't know a lot of teams that have him with a high first round grade. But he is a good quality player. And the one thing I've always said in the NFL, coming out of college, is you can find linemen at any level of the draft. You just got to be smart enough to pick the right guys in the right spots and put them in the right systems. But I agree with you. I think he's going to be a good player. And another kid here in North Carolina, if you look at the film of him coming out of college at UNC Charlotte, Nate Davis, the guard, kid he's very physical. He's probably, if he can pull, he's probably going to project more as a center because he's not. He's a little bit bigger than a guard, and his feet are better than being a guard. But his ability to move inside, I think, is going to be a key for him as well. So I think those two guys would be very good picks for the Panthers if they can find a way. If those guys are still available late Friday and early Saturday, those are two really quality picks that can help this offensive line down the line.
You know, it's funny. Here's what this is going to tie in. I'm going to digress, but not digress. We're talking about linemen, we're talking about players and draft status. I can't remember the player's name, but they say he may be the number 2 guy. He's a defensive end. He went through and cleaned all his Twitter stuff up because he's a Trump supporter. And he went through and cleaned all his stuff up because he didn't want it to affect him in the draft. So he went through and just did a whole scrub.
That's got to be Nick Bosa, I guess.
That's him. That's him.
Okay.
But you should be apolitical.
I mean,
you don't want to offend anybody on either side.
No, I agree. But it's just interesting that someone that you see a guy who actually they had a report on it, where people understand how that affects. There's so much more stuff that affects the draft than what happens on the field.
Absolutely,
the field may only be 35% of what affects how you get drafted, something like that. Because he said, you know, he may end up getting drafted by San Francisco because he made a statement about Kaepernick, that whole deal.
Right.
That he may go to San Francisco. So when you look at those types of things, social media has almost as much impact on where you get drafted now as how you play on the field.
I personally, as far as the Panthers go, I'm always suspect in the first round of drafting offensive linemen. It's a very hit or miss spot with the offensive lineman.
That's why I said unless they fall in love with somebody, I would expect probably a defensive lineman.
That's where I would.
Or somebody on defense.
If it's between offensive lineman, defensive lineman, I would really look hard at defensive lineman early.
I give you Vernon Butler versus Jordan Gross.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of guys in this draft on the defensive side of the ball that can put their hand on the ground or stand up and go get the quarterback and or drop into coverage. There's so many of them. I mean, you look at all those guys from Clemson, whether it's Cleveland Farrell or Christian Wilkins. You go down to Florida State, you got Brian Burns. I mean, I can go down the list. Deeper down in the draft, you've got Sweat. You still got guys even further down. Sharif Miller out of Penn State.
Farrell would be my choice.
Right, we talked about Nick Bosa as well. I mean, Rashawn Gary from Michigan. You can go on and on and on with the quality of defensive line available in this draft. Somebody is going to, a whole bunch of teams are going to get really good players on the defensive line in this draft. And the question is, is it the right guy for your scheme to create a lasting legacy player that you need?
Is this a league-changing draft? And what I mean by that is,
No.
there's so many defensive guys there that can change the way the league plays.
No. And the reason why I say that is because I just don't think the league will ever be anything different than a quarterback-driven offensive league, because that's what sells tickets, and those generally become the biggest stars in the league.
Right. I just meant this because there's so many guys, be so many good defensive players that they just can just bum rush, make them start changing rules, where they change the Manning rules.
No, well, that's the thing. They've already changed so many.
Right.
There aren't many left to change. I mean, I knew it was bad when the kid from Kansas City, I can't think of his name, Fur, you might remember, when he's the guy that injured Tom Brady. And they changed the rule. They basically told pass rushers at that point, if you get knocked to the ground in the backfield, you have to get back to a vertical base before you can continue your pass rush. That's absolutely absurd. Now, they since kind of tweaked that rule. It's not as enforced like that anymore. But that tells you right there the way they're changing the game for offense. So defensive players will never take over.
Yeah, to your point, because it's so quarterback-driven, it does make sense if they want to go offensive line route to find if they have that guy to go after in the first round or second round, whatever. It's so hit or miss with offensive linemen. You know, when you draft them that high, there's so many cases, even more so than quarterbacks, of those guys that just didn't pan out once you get to the.
Yeah, and it's
tough to just do it. But there is a need there, and it is a position you really have to make sure you have. Protecting Cam is really job one.
And I think a prime example of, to your point, of how it can be a miss with offensive linemen and how it can be a hit, really. If you look at Robert Gallery came out of Iowa as a left tackle. As a right tackle. They moved him to left tackle with Oakland. He wasn't a tackle. And oh, by the way, I tell people this all the time. If you're right-handed, put the pin in your left hand and try to right. That's the difference in playing right tackle and left tackle, especially going from college to the NFL. Then they figured out Robert Gallery is a right guard, and he became almost a Pro Bowler when they figured out the right position, but it took them 3.5 years to figure it out.
How about Brandon
You have
Scherf
to know
for the
what you're going to do.
Brandon Scherf for the Redskins was a All-American tackle. He's now a Pro Bowl caliber guard for the Redskins now. To back up your point, Reg.
Let me ask you.
We're talking about the Panthers draft, and you just figured out a way to get the Redskins.
Of course,
carry on.
You mentioned Robert Gallery moving from tackle to guard.
I'm talking about being a bust.
Right. But let me ask you guys this. I'm just curious because I'm kind of of two camps. Because we talk about, the league changed the rules, to make it a pass player league, this kind of thing. Is it that, or are they trying to protect their highest paid investment? The owner's saying, hey, we want to make some changes.
Yes.
Because our most expensive guy.
Yes and yes.
We got to protect him.
Yes.
Which just a side effect or byproduct of that ends up more scoring and that type of thing.
Well, yeah, because if you're protecting the quarterback, which is the investment, right, to your point, you got to make sure that player can look good. So you got to let his receivers get free releases. You got to let him be able to hit timing routes. All of those things become important, because if not, if you're paying a guy $100 million and he's only completing 48% of his passes because his receivers are getting beat up off the line of scrimmage, because his offensive line is not able to hold and get away with certain things, because the running game isn't working, now everybody's looking at you going, why are you paying this guy $25-30 million a year and he's not getting anybody the football?
Yeah, and it's not just the teams protected. I mean, it's a league thing. The league is protected.
How about this? How about this guy?
The owners of the team.
Carolina's number one asset, the highest paid guy on their team, Cam Newton, is has this year, next year under a contract. Are they going to draft a quarterback? Are they looking to the future yet, or are they thinking about extending him?
Here's the thing.
I do both.
I think you can extend him. I think the key is listen. There are enough holes in this football team. We saw it last year with the losing streak. There's enough holes in this football team where a quarterback in the first round or the second round makes 0 sense.
Agreed.
So people can start to say, oh, you got to look. You can, but we've also seen the fact that Cam, while he wasn't totally healthy at all last year, had this team at 6-2. So he's good enough to do certain things if he's protected.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the injury got the best of them later in the year, and they lost some games. They had some defensive issues, all those things. But right now is not the time to say we need to take a quarterback in the first round when they've got multiple other things, namely being able to protect whatever quarterback is under center.
I think what I saw from, was it Kyle Allen?
Kyle Allen had a great game.
When I saw him come in and play, he showed me enough then to say, you know what, keep this kid on the roster and let him
Absolutely.
develop under
Yep.
Norv Turner.
And I'm okay with that, too.
As Kevin like say, Norvell Turner
What's his
knows
name?
how to coach up quarterbacks. So I think you may have a guy right now, and you got him cheap.
Yeah.
You build it. You let him learn the game. So if Cam gets hurt again, shout out David Chapman for tuning in.
Love David
so
Chapman.
if he comes in, if Cam gets hurt again, you got a guy who can fill in.
That's exactly right.
And you got a guy who steps in when Brett Favre left, Aaron Rodgers came right in.
That's
So
exactly
you'll
right.
see,
But
you'll see what the
But can you draft a
Panthers
guy
think.
maybe in the second or third round, Mountaineer Mike, for a guy like your guy Will Greer from Charlotte?
Why go that high?
In the second or third round.
Well, here's the thing. You will see what the Panthers think of both Kyle Allen and Taylor Heineke if they go and grab a quarterback in the mid to late rounds. You'll know what they think of those guys if they go that route.
Well, that's going to be an important key is where. Listen, I think if you go draft a fifth or sixth round, if this team is good enough to me to in the fifth or sixth round, they can go best available. I'm okay with that because to me, you draft for need the first 4 rounds, 5 through 7, you go take the best player available, and you let them fill out depth on your roster. If they draft the guy in the 5th round at the quarterback position, that doesn't tell me anything except they think that's the best player on the board in that moment, and I'm okay with that.
I agree with that.
There's no need to reach for a quarterback in round 3
in this draft. I agree. with you.
There's no way I'm picking a quarterback before Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Not Saturday morning, afternoon.
No, I agree with that.
I wouldn't touch the quarterback till 7.
And you know what,
Then why-
William? You're not wrong.
That's
Because
the only time I would touch
now,
it.
guess what? In the 7th round, what are you drafting? Best available.
Yep.
Th-
Exactly.
Thank you.
But 1 through 6, I don't even look. You got a Q in front of your name. If your first name start with Q, I may not even look at you.
And you know what? Depth in the defensive backfield, because it's a passing league, is important as well, as well as playmakers. I mean, look, DJ Moore had a solid year. He's got to learn how to hold on to football, but he had a solid year as a rookie.
All right, well,
we've got enough. There's enough weapons here. Now you just got to put all the pieces together and build depth.
All right, Reggie, how much time you got before you have to roll out?
I'm good.
You good? Okay, we're going to get your final thought, but we'll save that. We're coming back. We'll talk Masters and a final thought here on Talking About Sports from
I'm
the
gonna eat all the
Neighborhood Grill.
fries, apparently.
At Heslop Wealth Advisors, our goal is to help small businesses develop quality retirement plans for their employees through our Lunch and Learn seminars. We provide lunch and learning tools to help your company succeed and unmatched customer service.
All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer, William Wilson. And guys, less than 6 minutes to go in the show with time for a final thought. Reggie, we haven't seen you in a while. You haven't laid down any smack on us, so let's hear your final thought.
The prodigal voice has come home.
Final thought, man, is look. I thought, and apparently the ratings will bear out what I'm getting ready to say. I thought this was one of the better NCAA tournaments we've had. We didn't have as many of the upsets, but we had a lot of close basketball games. We had a lot of quality shot making. I thought this was one of the stronger years of the NCAA tournament. I did hear some rumblings about some different things. I heard a lot of, particularly, and I'm going to say it like this, particularly ACC fans telling me that Gonzaga was overrated. Just a reminder, while they lost in the Elite Eight, so did both of your number 1 seeds. So we're just going to leave that right there in terms of North Carolina and Duke. Actually, North Carolina lost in the Sweet 16 and Duke. So I'm tired of having that conversation. Give quality teams their credit. Michigan State, Tom Izzo, once again, finds his way to a Final Four. I just thought this year was a quality basketball tournament. And I'm looking forward to college basketball continuing to have an ability to captivate us all during March Madness.
All right, Mountaineer Mike.
My final thought is we opened the show talking about Kemba Walker, and so I'm going to make that my final thought because I've really enjoyed watching him play during his time here with the Hornets. I mean, I watched him in college and enjoyed that, but
Man.
he is a player. The reason he is so well liked here isn't just that he made an all-star team. It's because he came after his rookie year where he struggled and he worked and he worked and he became a really good shooter. He wasn't when he came here, and he's the face of the franchise. They're going to retire his number here, but I really think this is the last time we'll see him in a Hornets uniform, and I hope everybody in Charlotte understands just how special a player he was for this franchise, and who knows what the franchise will go from here. If it were me, I would take Kemba Walker before Kyrie Irving. I've tweeted this out many times. You take Kyrie Irving. If Kyrie doesn't hit the shot in Game 7 in 2016, what is his career compared to Kemba Walker's? Now, he made the shot, so he gets all the credit for it. But if he doesn't make that shot, which was a biggie, where is his career compared to Kemba Walker? I don't think they're that far apart. I think Kemba Walker, I'm a huge fan. He's one of the few people I would pay money to see these days. And I hope the city of Charlotte, he will get a rousing ovation for a long time when wherever he goes to play, he ends up back here in Charlotte to play a game as a visiting player. He was a special player here. I think he's going to be special wherever he goes. But I hope Hornet fans really understand, and I think they do, what kind of player Kemba Walker was with the Hornets.
So if it's your money, you're paying him?
Well, if it's
He's going to get offered
not
money.
my money,
All right.
pay him to stay here. It's fine. It's not going to make the franchise better.
All right, Will, what do you got?
First, I want to touch on something that Freer said about Kyrie Irving making the last shot. When I look at that championship series, Kyrie Irving put that team on his back for a couple of games. It wasn't necessarily one shot. A lot of times, the only reason it was in the position to make that one shot because he was there when LeBron just wasn't stepping up those whole games. But I feel what you're saying on that aspect of it because one championship changes everything. Yeah. Winning, like Ty said, winning cures everything. It's the ultimate antiseptic. But my final thought will probably be kind of brief, but it's for half the panel. Apparently, Kevin Tolbert knows how to put a decent team together, provided one of the team stays in on the reserve long enough. Because myself, Reggie Walker were named the Who's Who of Black Charlotte.
Yeah.
So I didn't qualify.
Yeah, I wonder why.
You got to cut that man off every time he speaks?
I think it's intimidation, man. I feel like I don't know what it is.
I was going to mention that, by the way.
But he's my dude. But like the only reason I'm bringing this up now is because I don't know if Reggie be here next week or not. Because we're blessed to have Reggie this week, so I want to make sure I acknowledge your award for that. You're a good dude. I've known you a long time.
Yeah, thank you.
We met a while ago, but we really kind of hit it off at the Empire screen, and we really had a
how about that?
Could we have been more wrong? We both saw with the pre-screening of Empire. We both said
this is not going to last.
Weeks.
Right.
We said the level. We underestimated the level of ratchetness America was willing to deal for.
That's
we
true.
looked at that, and said this won't last 3 weeks. This is going to be in and out.
Facts only.
Like 5 years later, they still here in a top-rated show.
Yeah.
But Reggie's always been a good dude. You're a solid dude, man. You stand behind what you say. If you make a mistake, you own it. You don't run from it.
Nope.
I respect you a lot for that.
I appreciate you, man.
Thank you very much.
Likewise
and Will,
to you.
going into you have a Military Veterans Hall of Fame at the end of the month. Thank you, Reggie, and for being here. Mountaineer Mike Freer, and I want to say props to the government for rescinding an agreement. I hate this for baseball players in Cuba. I want more baseball players from Cuba in the United States playing in the major leagues, but you can't fund a murderous communist regime to get them there. For Kevin Tolbert, Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer, William Wilson, I'm Kevin Casey. This has been Talking About Sports. So long for now.
Shout out Waiting for Wishes 2009.